I've brought you some iconic homes before, but wait until you see this one. My name is Sean Larson, real estate broker here in Middle Tennessee in the 38th Florida market, and I am out here at 9600 Concord Road in Brentwood. And if you've been in Brentwood, Nashville, or Middle Tennessee, or maybe you've seen pictures of it nationally, this home is absolutely incredible. It's over 10,000 square feet. You have thousands more in the guest home and the ballroom. Yes, it has its very own ballroom, and wait till you see that. Go ahead and take this extensive tour with me. I am going to show it all to you. So if you've ever wondered what it looks like inside, you're in the right place. Let's go take a tour of it. Okay, the story starts right there at the front gate. You pull through a beautiful magnolia entrance, have your stone driveway. Look at that, each of those placed individually. That's not a poured driveway. That is all individually placed. And then look at that presentation. Now in this home, I'm probably going to give you a little bit of backstory, probably some personal opinion too, because I absolutely love this house. I remember when it was coming out of the ground, I've read about all of the backstory about the designing and the building of it. Had the pleasure of meeting the original owner who had it built. And as this thing came out of the ground, you know, each stage was just incredible. You first had the wall built on the front here, and this immediately reminded me of the wall at Biltmore. And if you're familiar with Biltmore Mansion, at the end of the front lawn, they have a wall there, and when I saw this pop up, I knew it was going to be awesome. And each time, you know, you saw progress on the home. It's a steel framed home, and once you get inside and you see the spans of the rooms, how heavy the material are, it had to be steel framed in order to support that. So I'm gonna try to give you a few tidbits along the way. So let's get going. We'll check out the exterior. We're gonna do an extensive interior tour. We're gonna go through this, the guest house, the ballroom. It is awesome. The home itself is over 10,000 square feet. You've got thousands more in the guest house and the ballroom. It sits on just over 4.5 acres. Again, it's 9600 Concord Road in Brentwood, Tennessee. It's just across from the Governor's Club and just a few homes down from one of Dolly Parton's homes. So it is right in the heart of Brentwood. I just love that wall. I remember when that came out of the ground. That was incredible, setting the stage for the home. Look at all that concrete work. Beautiful. Now as we walk up the driveway, it will continue on around back, and I will show you that just shortly. It goes to the guest house and the ballroom. Plenty of parking. It looks like an English garden back there. Walking by some hollies here. And again, if you're familiar with Biltmore, you know the wall I'm talking with. So it's got the double set of stairs that bring you up to the next level. Now at Biltmore, it brings you up to kind of like a garden, and here it's bringing you up to the main level of the home. What a view that is. And I believe all this concrete work, I believe, was cast on site here. Look at that. Have the twin staircase going down the other side. All those railings. Is that not something? You know, we each have a definition of what an estate looks like, or the characteristics that an estate should have. But I don't think anybody can argue the fact that this clearly would be defined as an estate. Again, on almost 5 acres, over 10,000 square feet. And just look at how it's all presented. I mean, look at those rails. All that's concrete. Custom designed and built. And even when it comes to a garden, you know, if you've ever been on vacation and toured, you know, and they have these gardens, I mean, all this curb work, all that is custom. That's not something they just bring in. All your brick walkways. And that is a huge detail. You know, that's a differentiating factor compared to, you know, just a lot of hard decking that was just poured. The same thing continues upper on the home, inside as well. A lot of those concrete accents and finishes are going to be carried inside, which is why they needed that steel framing. Look at all those French doors that can open. Imagine in the evening when it's glowing, you open all those doors out, guests come out. I mean, traditionally people think about entertaining in the rear of the home, which this one has an unbelievable space to do it. But look at the front space here. I mean, you can entertain right here on the front lawn and terrace. That home glowing in the evening. Now, to give you just a little bit of background, this home is based on the Westbury home in New York. And if you want to look that up, you can look for Westbury Home or Westbury Gardens. And when you look at it, you will be astonished at how close it is. I want to say I was told they were able to obtain either some of or all of the original plans for that home. I can't vouch for the accuracy, but I believe I was told that at one time. And when you see the Westbury, you will believe it. It is incredible at how similar the homes are. Got 5 sets of French doors here. Look at that. Is that not beautiful? And it not only makes an awesome presentation from the front, but look how functional it is. You know, they all open. And we have some really nice seasons here in Tennessee, so you can actually let all that air blow through. That is just incredible. I can imagine an October evening having that breeze come through the home. Okay, let's go get this tour started inside. And I'm going to give you the heads up that when this home was built, it was not built to see how similar it could be to, you know, homes in a typical neighborhood. It's not looking to be on trend with the, you know, most current paint color, the floor color, floor tile, all that. This is a completely different vision. This vision is to build an estate that is grand. It's going to be a lot of kind of extensive finishes inside. It's very similar to a home that you might actually go to another city to tour, and you come home and you just, you know, just tell everybody what an incredible home you saw. Maybe it was a historic home or something like that. Maybe it was a palace and had just really extreme finishes. You know, more in depth, took more planning, more financial investment than most people are going to put in a typical home. So that is what this home is all about. It is all about grandeur. So you're going to see domes, heavy millwork. You've got the concrete, you know, casting that went on inside. So just setting the stage for what you're looking at. This is something that you would just rave about when you went home and tell people what an extensive home that you saw. So let's go inside and get that tour started. I hope you're enjoying this tour, and if you want to see more home tours like this, be sure to subscribe, go ahead and like, and you know what that's going to do? It's going to help grow the channel, which I certainly appreciate. It'll help me produce more videos, but more importantly, it's going to make it easier for you to find this video later when you want to tell your friends about it. So go ahead and subscribe, like, and share it all you like, and I greatly appreciate it. Now let's get back to that tour. Okay, we've stepped just inside that center French door, and look at this entrance. Is this not amazing? And again, all of that concrete work, I believe, was cast right here on site. Look at that. Have that chandelier in the main living room there. Simply incredible. And like I mentioned, the goal of this home was not to be like your typical neighborhood luxury home. And I think you'll agree they nailed it. It is definitely a home similar to, you know, you would go on tour somewhere in another city where you visited on vacation and you came home and you just bragged and raved about the home you saw, about the finishes, how extensive it was. It was like a palace. This is definitely that. So as we step through, you have marble floors, and you're going to see detailing all throughout, and I'll try to capture a lot of that floor for you. Storage closet on each side. I'm going to pan around here, give you the whole view. Chandelier overhead. Beautiful, isn't it? Look at that chandelier. Have your coffered ceiling. And I know you see a lot of coffer ceilings in homes, but you don't see them like that. Concrete fireplace. Look at the detailing on that. Have your column. Look at that leaf detail. And just to kind of give you some scale, because sometimes it can tell how large it is. The low side of that mantle is about 6 feet tall. The low spot of it. Ceilings in here probably about 25 feet or so. Look how far that goes up. Finished mirror almost all the way to the ceiling. Incredible. Just to give you a shot of that foyer from the interior. So you can imagine welcoming your guests in that. And again, if you look at those floors, I mean, it just reminds me of going to somewhere like Biltmore. It's such a good feel. Look at that. I know I make references to Biltmore, but it's one of the probably most popular mansions that people are familiar with that might be similar in finish like this. Look at all that casing around the doors. You can imagine casting all that. I mean, casting means you have to make one of those, each one individually. Those paintings. Twin chandeliers. Okay, so we have to pick a direction on the tour. All right, let's start left. We're going to head to the dining room. So we come in the foyer. You have your main living space straight in front. You have your gardens, and I tell you, those are incredible. Hedges. You've got your ballroom back there. You've got your guest house. So we're going to get to that. First, we're going to go left side of the foyer. We're going into the dining. Just look at all this detail work. See, each one of those had to be made by hand. Hardwood floors. So this is the front left of the home. Sometimes in videos, people like to go back and kind of determine where it was in a home, so I try to give them a little bit of reference. So we are working toward the left side of the home as you look at it from outside. And even the detail like the chair rail. See that gold on there? That is just something else. Kind of like a crackled gold. Fireplace, you have the antique mirror surround. So look at the gold finish on that. See, I told you it was all about grandeur. It was a definite vision. So when we start the tour, I didn't want people to think, well, we're going to go inside and everything's going to be white and it's have gray paint and a certain color cabinet because that's what's on trend. That is not what this home is about. This is a home, I tell you, that you would go to another city, you would tour, and you would come home and tell everybody how incredible it was. Have your medallion above the chandelier. Additional spotlights for the table there to kind of accent that area. So if we continue through the dining room, we come into kind of like a butler's pantry and butler's kitchen. Have your hardwood floors, kind of a light, medium kind of gray color on the countertop. And see that hardware is spot on for what they were trying to do. Not only the color, but the shape. Beautiful lighting in the cabinets, like the hardware too. We always talk about, little details like that contribute to the vision of the project. You can go in with broad strokes, and pick the majors, and then if you don't follow through on your small details, well, you lose the cohesion of the project. And see, that nailed it with that shape of hardware. So this would be the butler's kitchen or prep kitchen. Have additional cooler. So I'm going to continue to get reference so you kind of know where we are in the home. So we're leaving the dining and the Butler's prep kitchen. I'm going to pan left just so you can kind of see where we are in the home. And that is like the center hallway that goes all the way through the home. Now this is the far left side of the home as you would be looking at it from the front. Look at that. Beadboard ceiling. And see, those wall finishes are exactly what I was talking about. See how grand they are? And you know, when you go into like a palace or some historic home or something like that, not that this is historic, it's not built that long ago, you know, you have those type of finishes. Those homes are not looking to be, you know, the most current trended thing on the block. They have a vision when they built those, and that was exactly what this home was all about. That's why you see these large mirrors, you know, a lot of gold on there, a lot of stone, a lot of concrete. Very theatrical type of carpet too. Beautiful fireplace. I'm going to show you this mirror, this palladium, and when we get inside, that actually opens up to the kitchen. So you can actually open those windows and have some additional connection with this space. Just to give you a close-up of those finishes, look at that. Rolls right over, look at the fluting on that fireplace. Let's continue over. Let me give you a close-up of this wall finish. So if you've been to Biltmore or even anywhere similar, you know exactly what I'm talking about and why I'm making that comparison. It is clearly a vision for the home. Is that not incredible? Look at all the different finishes right there. And it completely nails their vision. So we're continuing back to the main level of the home, main hallway. Just to give you some reference, we're turning left into the kitchen area. Here you're going to find one of the staircases upstairs. You have a pass-through, goes over to the main living space and continues upward. And this will be a secondary staircase because you do have the main staircase when we first came in the foyer. But look at that extensive trim and molding work. If you know anybody who has ever worked in stained grade finishes, it's another talent. It is not painted grade. That is stained grade. And the runner and everything matches perfectly for the vision. And I know I keep mentioning vision, but that's really what it was. You know, it wasn't go in and try to make it the next trendy home. There was definitely a vision here. Come into the kitchen, you've got your dual ovens there, in wall. Dishwasher sink. The mirror above the sink there, those are the panels that I was describing in the last space that they crank open so you can open up to that space and stay kind of connected. Have your 6-burner gas cooktop right in the island there. Prep sink. Got your wine cooler, have your Sub-Zero refrigerator right there, panel fronted. See, look at this detail. Even that lantern up there. Look at that detail. Beautiful. This would be your informal dining. Kind of a bay window type arrangement, even though they're full height doors. Plenty of beautiful light coming in. Have a fireplace right there. Mirror above. Look how intricate that crown molding is. All of that individually painted. That is something else. And as we walk through the home, it's easy, to overlook. Each time we walk through one of these doorways, you have that casement that is concrete. And again, each one of those had to be made by hand. So it's easy, once we point out a detail, you kind of just overlook it each time we walk through an opening. But look at the work that went into every single opening that surrounds. And this would be the pass-through staircase. We looked at it just a second ago in the kitchen. And so it actually has 2 access points. I mean, look at that shot. Sometimes I'll stop in a video and something just strikes you as, an image out of a magazine or something. But look at that right there. The stained grade stairs, the runner, all of the railing finishes. It looks like a piece of artwork right there. And it continues over to the kitchen. I have your hallway. We've been through the dining. Look at that detail work. Even on the cold air returns, look how specific they were about how those were designed. Beautiful work. Concrete columns frames that space perfectly. Back to the living room, you have your chandelier, and again, the scale of that. You're looking at about 25 feet tall right there. So in some homes, that's going to be 2 levels plus a bit, just to kind of give you some scale. Okay, we're going to make our way toward the right side of the home. Again, we came in the foyer there. We're coming down kind of to the right wing. All that floor detail. They framed it well, too, for, it's kind of like an intersection here in the hallway. Perfect design element right there at that intersection. Look at all that millwork up there. We often talk about crown molding, but it's usually not crown molding like that. Look at that, how extensive that is. That's vision right there. So we come down to the study or the library, and this also had an access point directly from the foyer. We had 2 stained grade pocket doors there, which I'll show you. So you have 2 access points here. Look at that, all stained grade work. Cabinets everywhere. You have your Law series books lining the top. Beautiful gold light fixture with a medallion surrounded by spotlights. Stunning. Just look at the detail in the fireplace. Have your granite hearth and surround. Have your gas logs. If we come over to this side, it's always fun to see kind of some hidden features in a home, and this home is no exception. If you look at both doors that flank the fireplace, or both panels rather, the one on the right, I've got it slightly open, and you have a hidden closet there. Maybe there's something you want to hide away or something, or maybe you just want a secret room. So you have one right here in this home to the right of the fireplace in the study. Just to give you some reference where we are in the home, we're on the right side of the home as you look at it from outside. And here are the twin stained grade pocket doors that brings everybody right back to the foyer. So maybe somebody's in here doing some work, you have guests arriving, easy access right there. So we continue back down the hallway. Go straight across. Look at that, more detailing in every aspect. Closet on the right. Now this is something that you're going to think is pretty fun. On the toilet seats, they have small pianos. Now you have to keep in mind, the Nashville area is Music City.
And so somebody decided to have some fun with that. Have plenty of, look at that finishing on the walls. All the way up, look at the crown molding. We just keep going in this room. Look at the ceiling finish, like a crackled gold. I'm going to come back down to this panel because I think it's really cool. Again, another Biltmore reference. Those are push button light switches. And those I think are so cool. So the top row are the push button light switches. And then the second row on the right three, those are dials so you can actually dim them. And if you've ever been at Biltmore, you know that they also have some push button light switches. Look at the finish there on that plumbing. Have your plate glass mirror. Have your crystal light fixture. It just fits the room perfectly. If you notice as we walk through, look at the door panels. Look how elaborate those are. And those aren't just, thin. I mean, look at the depth of the relief in that work on the doors. I'm trying to give you a shot where you can see just how much relief that molding has. Okay, we're starting to make our way into the primary suite area. So this would be like a sitting room where you can kind of relax. Look at all the storage. Look at all the cabinets, mirror fronted. Have a small sink here. Beautiful. Hardwood floors. And see the wall covering, see it continues with that theme I was talking about. It's like a palace-like. They weren't trying to be the newest, greatest home with, white and gray or whatever the current trend is. There was a vision to kind of replicate a certain period. And if you've ever gone, to another town and visited homes that, like I said, were either historic or a palace or something like that, this is very spot on for that vision. And it's so cool to see it. Slider door to the outside garden. Give you a small preview of the backyard here. So off in the distance there, you have the guest house. And I believe, going on memory here, I believe the original owner lived in that building while they designed and built this one. So I believe that one was here first. The main home was built. And then the ballroom, which I'll give you a visual here, off in the distance in the back there. The ballroom was added later. Okay, we're moving into the primary bedroom. Continue with the same wall covering. Light blue ceiling. Okay, you ready for this? Look at that. Is that not incredible? That is just amazing. And I am a huge fan of domes or rotunda like that in ceilings. It is just incredible. It's not only a visual thing, it's just an appreciation for the work that it takes to put them in, especially if they have anything to do with stain grade. If you're trying to get people to do stain grade on a flat surface like a cabinet door, that's one thing. If you're dealing with curves and spheres like that, that's a whole new ballgame. And I have a major appreciation for people who can do that. That is incredible. But look at the crown molding throughout. Again, we're in the primary bedroom. That is something else. And see all the different angles they have over the window there? Kind of like a keystone type of approach. Same thing here on this side with your fluted columns, kind of that keystone work. Simply gorgeous. Okay, we're moving into the primary bathroom. Look at that. Is that not like straight out of a palace? All that marble. Few steps up, you've got your jacuzzi tub. The handsets are spot on for the vision. Look at that. Crystal lighting. Even the shape of the mirror, it totally Totally fills that vision there. More antique mirror. And I tell you, when it comes to mirror choice, even doing those accents in antique mirror, it's those small details that contribute to the vision. More stained grade built-ins, plenty of storage. Have your shelves. Look at that. They're even well designed. They're tucked on the back side. So as you enter the room, if there is anything on the shelves, they're kind of tucked away. More mirror fronted doors. And look how big it looks. You know, when you look into a mirror, it's the same thing if you go to like a gym or something like that, and they put mirrors on the walls and it makes the building look like it's twice as deep. See, I mean, look at that. We're looking into the mirror and it's showing us the other side of the bathroom there, and it just makes everything look so large. Perfect plumbing fixtures, have that jewel going on. See, that is perfect for the vision. So we entered the bathroom right there through the door that comes from the bedroom. We just explored that vanity on that side. So we're going to come over to the second side where we have a different style vanity. Kind of a different look. You know, the one was stained grade built in. This is kind of freestanding. Look at the top on that. Gorgeous. Similar plumbing fixture with the crystal. Matches perfectly for the vision. Large plate glass mirror. Double sconces. I'm going to pan left here a little bit, and you're going to see two mirrored paneled windows, and they crank out. And you remember on the other side of the home, we had that mirror paneled, I'll call it a window, but it cranked out, and I said it went to the outdoor space, or it wasn't outdoor, it was kind of the living space with the theater type carpet. This actually cranks out and goes to a second closet, which I'm going to show you just shortly, and you are going to be amazed at that closet. So let's continue on our tour. So primary bedroom is on our right. Look at the size of that mirror. Look at the size of that frame. Is that not incredible? Here is our first closet. Marble floor continues right into the closet. Plenty of built-ins. Look at that. We always talk about how many built-ins are in a closet. You've got hanging shoe racks, folded clothes racks, all adjustable. And look at that, nearly to the ceiling. That is simply fantastic. Glass fronted. More drawers. Beautiful. Look at that. Look how extensive the crown molding is, even in the closet above the storage stack. Simply incredible. Come to the other side. There's space for a washer and dryer right here in the closet. Have your washer dryer hookup, which is so convenient. Washer dryer might as well be where the clothes are, right? So we're leaving the primary suite. This is the bathroom hallway. The mere fact you have a hallway in the bathroom lets you know the size and scale we're working with. So we're leaving this space. We've come back into the sitting room where we originally entered, back out to the hallway. With the intersection, the study is right across the hallway. Now, I just mentioned that closet that the window opened up to. So we're going to explore that in just a second. Again, look at the size of that mirror. Incredible. On our way to the closet, right side, you have another laundry and utility room. Marble floors. Now keep in mind, look at the lighting fixture that's even in the laundry and utility room. Is that not something? That's the lighting fixture in the laundry room. Plenty of storage up top. Washer dryer hookup. Sink, base cabinet. Look at the edge on the counter. kind of like a metallic. You have any custom tiles there? We've just come out of the utility or the laundry. We're about to enter a second closet, and let me give you a warning right here. Everybody loves large closets. What you're about to see is probably off the charts in terms of your dream closet. Is that not one of the most incredible closets you've ever seen? Look at that. Floor to ceiling storage. You have a rolling ladder. You have twin chandeliers. Incredible. So just for reference, we came off the end of the hallway. We came from the laundry utility room. Just on the right side is the crank out window area that I pointed out when we were in the primary bath. Come down a few steps. Luxury carpet. And if this doesn't look like you're in the middle of a boutique, I don't know what is. Look at all that hanging. You got full height, half height. You have half height above. You have a rolling ladder, twin chandeliers. Look at all of the shoe racks. Floor to ceiling. Mirrored accessory racks. Look at that. So if you want to put jewelry there, you actually have the mirror right behind there as you're putting it on. Is that not practical? You have your rail for your rolling ladder. Easily moves about the room so you can reach the upper racks. You know, sometimes when there's two ceiling storage, they'll put flip down racks, but they just went with a full-on ladder here, which makes it all easy to access. Mirror doors for getting ready. Give you another panoramic of that closet. Because I know some of you, this is going to be the section of the video that you tell all your friends about. Incredible. So off the end of the closet, you have the sitting room. Look at the bright daylight. You have the same luxury carpet coming in. Exterior door that goes around to the back garden. Beadboard ceiling. Look at the size of the fan. Keeps the air moving, everything cool. Beautiful. There you even have another mirrored door panel. Goes right back to the closet. So as we leave the closet, we're back into the hallway, main hallway of the main level. We're heading back toward the living room and the foyer. We're coming to the intersection. We have the study on the left. We have the primary suite on the right. Study is on the front side of the home. Master suite, or the primary suite, is on the rear side of the home. We're back to the main living space. Kind of an English garden feel out back. That chandelier again. I'm told the chandelier weighs approximately 650 pounds. Just that one light fixture. Back in the foyer on the dining room side, we're making it to the second level. And again, look at all that concrete work. Look at that. Perfect carpet for the mission too. Second level view. We're just overlooking the foyer. Again, all of this concrete, all that had to be cast, each piece. This is at the landing, at the top of the stairs in the foyer. Just look at that coffered ceiling. Like I mentioned before, you see coffered ceilings, but you don't see them like this. That is incredible. Concrete fireplace mantle, and look at all that. Almost to the top. And again, that's about 25 feet or so. Gorgeous window treatment at the top. Have like a Juliet balcony over to the side. Nice detail as well. You know, sometimes when you have multi-floor rooms, that wall can be tricky to kind of either accessorize or create a finish, so that Juliet balcony there works perfectly. So as we move toward the left side of the home, as you're looking at the home, you have a living space here. To our left, kind of a small gathering space right here. And look at the size. You know, we talk in homes where, you know, we're looking at base molding and it's just, you know, it's wood, whether it be hardwood or what have you. And these are cast, and look at the size of those. And again, all of those had to be cast as well. So there's just a huge appreciation for all the labor that went into all these finishes. And like any home, you know, whether something matches somebody's preferences or not, you still have to just appreciate everything that went into it. Overlooking from the Juliet balcony. So you're coming from the foyer there into the living space. Incredible. Just across from the Juliet balcony is where the staircase arrives that came from the kitchen. If you remember, we had the secondary staircase. You can see the kitchen there in the distance. This is where the secondary staircase comes up. So we come to a secondary bedroom, which is on the rear of the home. And again, look at the extent of those door panels. That is incredible. Even the hardware, that is something else. Have your bay window arrangement there, but look how large it is. That is beautiful. Chandelier, have your medallion. Crystal on the right, walk-in closet on the right. And they've used so much of the lighting, you know, not only for light, but actually accent pieces. You know, you see these sconces on the wall. You know, right here on this wall, I could picture having, you know, a desk or, you know, even a makeup counter with a mirror above it. Well thought out. All the storage, have drawers. Look at that, floor to ceiling. Dedicated bath, marble floors. Deep soaking tub, jeweled hardware on the plumbing. Have your vanity with fluted molding, jeweled pool poles. You also have jeweled on this hardware, so it coordinates. Perfect selection. Plate glass mirror. Now, I like how they went to the ceiling too. Makes the room look larger. And the windows here overlook the rear garden, rear yard. I showed you a little bit of this to you downstairs. Here you have a better look. On the left, that's the guest house. And in the center, you have the ballroom there. And just look, even with those buildings, look how they coordinated perfectly. You know, the brick is spot on. They continued, you know, with the concrete casted rails, all the ironwork, everything just coordinates perfectly. Doesn't that look like an English garden? That is just beautiful. The way the hedges are shaped. We're continuing more toward the front of the home here. We're passing the Juliet balcony, staircase on the right. We're going back toward the front of the home. This room is just so cool. Look at that. Look how much stacked stone finish is in here. Again, they accented with the sconces, high ceilings, have your dormer up there, there's a chandelier. Look at the size of that. Have your concrete fireplace. Look at the detail just in that work. Have your columns. Each detail we look at, I just instantly can relate to the labor it took to install those components. And that is just impressive to me. So our upper floor, front of the home, beautiful view. Absolutely stunning. We're exiting this room. We're coming back to the main walkway toward the front of the home. Foyer is on the right. Living room is on the left. And that beautiful coffered ceiling is everywhere. Love it. So on this level, you have two secondary bedrooms. One is going to be here on the front side of the home. As we enter that, there's a bed in place just to kind of show perspective and the size of the room. Vault ceilings, you have dormer up top. And if you go back and look at the exterior of the home, you will see what a design element those dormers are on the outside. It totally makes the exterior look of the home. Beautiful fixture, crown molding, dedicated bath. Beautiful floor. Look at all that marble and the pattern they have in there. Fits perfectly for the vision. And again, I keep talking about vision, but that's clearly what this home was all about. Look at that, even mirrors on the ceiling there. Have a laundry chute there that goes down to the first floor. Walk-in shower. Walk-in closet, plenty of hanging, beautiful. And again, this would be a guest room. As we come around, isn't that a beautiful detail right there? The hardware, not only the jewel, but just look at the key. Even the key is fitting with the era. Love that. Come back out to the hallway. Closet on the left. Half bath right ahead of us. Love that pedestal sink too. That stone. Copper. See, this is something very typical that you would find in Biltmore. Just that kind of look. You have the plumbing coming out of the wall there. Copper kind of finish. Look at the intricate print on there. Even the plate on the receptacle. Let me give you a shot of that wall finish too. Beautiful. Brilliant, brilliant gold. Okay, I'm going to give you a shot of this light fixture. I mentioned Dolly Parton earlier. She's just a few homes up, and she actually autographed this light fixture. Turn around and show you the consistency of the piano keys. Again, it is Music City right here. That wall finish. It's just a brilliant, brilliant gold. So hopefully that conveys in video. Give you another shot of the light fixture there. 2006 she signed that. So we've just come out of that powder. We're going into another secondary bedroom. And again, we're on the rear side of the home now. Beautiful soft blue color, extensive crown molding, dedicated bath. It has that vintage look. Is that not something else? I mean, you have your pedestal sink, perfect hardware for that. I always like the hardware that has the hot and cold printed like that on it. That is always so cool. But I have an appreciation for vintage type of stuff. You've heard before where I've mentioned, penny tiles and things like that in bathrooms. I just like that type of stuff. And here is a perfect example. Look at that. You have the shower curtain railing hanging from the ceiling, your freestanding tub. Beautiful shape on that tub too. Have your claw foot. That hardware, plumbing. Awesome. Detachable sprayer there. Love the shape of that tub. You can kind of see how it's flared up. Love that. Marble floors. Here you have a walk-in closet, plenty of storage. Can kind of configure that however you'd like. Here's an awesome, awesome detail. Right there, you have 3 of them. Can you guess what those are? Those are what are called light lifts. So for instance, you saw all those chandeliers that we saw. You had the 2 in the foyer, had the 650-pound one in the living room. Everybody wants to know how you change light bulbs and clean chandeliers when they're that high. What you do is you install light lifts. They're actually electric motors or electric winches that you install in the attic, and those control them. And so when you let them down or activate the motor, it will then lower that light fixture however low you need it. So that way you can easily change the bulbs, clean the crystals or whatever the light consists of, and then you reverse the direction and it takes it back up to the ceiling. So those switches were for these 3 chandeliers. It's a kind of a luxury item that prevents any ladders or scaffolding or anything like that. The view from up here is just something else. Look at all the detail you have, all the work. And I continue to think about all the labor it took to make this happen. So we've just returned to the main level. We're down here in the foyer, just giving you another look at that. We come around, you have a storage closet right there on the left. Living space. On the right, you have access to a storage basement and crawl space. Super conveniently located. Beautiful chandelier that greets all your guests. And speaking of guests, let's go tour the guest home. On our way to the guest home, I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit of the rear yard here, and look at those awesome gardens, how everything is just trimmed. I'm actually standing behind the primary bedroom. It comes out through one of the sliding doors that we saw. On the left here you have what is behind the living room. with a large fireplace, large chandelier. So this is the view straight behind that living space. Is that not spectacular? You have the ballroom on the right there. You have the guest home on the left. This is the breakfast area or the informal dining on the left that we're passing by. And you know, when you assemble something like this, look at all the detail, even the brickwork. You know, it's so easy to pass by that and just think that's part of the garden, but all the labor and design that it took to implement that. And just like we talked about the concrete casting inside, look at all that went on the exterior. All that at the upper level too. Isn't that amazing? Right behind here is the room that had the theatrical type carpet. As you're looking at the home from the front, we are on the left side of the home. So when we first started the video, the driveway went to the left side of the home, and this is where the driveway arrives. Have a parking pad here. Have a second gate right there. And there's even a third gate further back on the property. So you have 3 entrances. And again, look at that. They blended the aggregate with the granite. Beautiful presentation. Look at all that stone. I have a huge appreciation for surfaces like this. I just love them. It can be at a historic home. It can be, you know, something they created at a Disney park or something like that. I just have a huge appreciation for these. And I always come back to, what does it sound like if a horse and carriage went across that? Okay, so we have the guest home here. You have a 3-bay garage or a 3-vehicle garage there in the lower level, living space above. And I believe this was the first building on the property while they designed and constructed the main home. So let's go check this one out. So we've just walked across the driveway there, come over to the guest house, up the stairs, and again, look at that concrete casting. It just continues. And that detail is so important to consistency of a project. Look at that beautiful back area. Like an English garden. Again, love that stone. This is kind of the motor courtyard. You know, we have the 3-bay garage under us. Love that. Plenty of space. It's not only beautiful, but it's practical. You have plenty of space to park and turn around. And then you have the ballroom. But let's check out the guest home here. So we've just entered the guest home. Look at this. Really, really wide open floor plan. You have your kitchen here. Simulates kind of like a bar there because, you know, you've got the footrest. And you have to keep in mind, like I said, this was the first building on the property. So this was not intended to be the main home. This was until the main home was built, and then this would be used as somewhat either for a guest home or entertainment. So you're going to see that the floor plan is set up more for the end game, which was kind of, you know, the entertainment or guest area. So it's kind of a really wide open floor plan. Absolutely love how they brought brick inside. That is so spot on for the period that they're targeting. They continue the concrete casing inside, right there on the wall. Look at that. And again, all of those had to be made individually. Carries the brick right inside. And I like how, you know, they use the same finishes, but, you know, the level of the finish is stepped down a little bit because, you know, when you build an estate like that, you don't have your guest house rivaling your main home. You know, the main home is the attraction of an estate. So I like how the finishes are very consistent, but it's clear what the purpose of this home is. Got your full kitchen. Here you have a spiral staircase that we're going to go visit that actually takes you down to the garage below. Is that not cool right there? So we're going to go explore that in just a moment. So again, you have your brick floors, super wide space. So if this was a guest home, so you can set up the bed area. I won't call it a bedroom because we have such an open floor plan. But so you've got your bedroom area over here. You have your full bath straight through that door. You've got your living space. So it's kind of like a, a state version of like a studio type of thing. Storage closet on the left. You go straight into a full bath. Have your storage. Connection for a second vanity there. Love the light. So look at that wall finish too. See if you can pick that up. Isn't that cool? Kind of has almost like a metallic, I want to say silver, but the light also makes it look a little bit gold. Brick floor continues in here. Have your single vanity, have your walk-in shower. Kind of flanked with mirror panels on the side there. Can kind of be a little deceptive looking at it. The center is glass, so you're walking into a marble shower. Those two sides are mirrors. That can kind of fool your eye there a little bit. I like how they continued the brick on the wall there. And again, you go to some home tour, you go to Biltmore or something like that, and this would be very much what you would find like on a satellite home or building on the property. Detail on the switch plates. And notice, the door panels completely changed when we came to this home. Remember how elaborate and they had a lot of curves and a lot of intricate detail? Here you've gone with a more traditional panel door. So they were careful to even, pay attention to that kind of design detail in this space. It was very, very intentional. Okay, let's check out that spiral staircase. And again, it goes down to the garage below. Super convenient. So we've just come down the spiral staircase. We're in the guest home. We're coming into the 3-vehicle garage. And look at that. I love that the whole garage is like lined with curtains, which keeps the presentation spectacular. You can see the sprayed insulation for the upstairs living. You have a mini split unit over here. If you're not familiar with what a mini split is, it is virtually a smaller version of a regular HVAC unit. Samsung and Mitsubishi are some of the leaders in that. But I love the presentation that those curtains make. It just kind of makes a barrier around the garage. Not to mention, the sound in here is incredible. It's almost like you're in a recording booth. So you have your 3 vehicles. You have your glass-fronted carriage doors. Those are just spectacular right there. 3 beautiful vehicles. You have your stained concrete floors. Look at that. What a presentation that makes. Just sitting there. That is awesome. Plenty of daylight. Track lighting. And on this side, just behind the split unit there on the wall, behind the curtains, there is a functional sink, a workshop area. And this just screens it so well. Fantastic idea. So we're heading back to the spiral staircase. And this will bring us back up to the guest home living space. Back up to the guest home living. Let me just give you another look at this kitchen. So you can even tell the width of the upper level of this island. It was intended to be more of a bar later, but it served as living quarters while the main home was built. Love that footrest. Look at that. So we've covered the main home and the guest home, and now we're on to the ballroom. Right outside this door and to the left.
Just to give you reference on where we are, we've come from the main home, went through the beautiful guest home with 3 vehicle garage below, and now we are on to this incredible ballroom. And I guarantee you have not seen a ballroom like this, let alone probably even seen a property that had its own ballroom.
So we've just come across that courtyard from the guest home. We're entering the ballroom, and are you ready for this spectacular sight? It is simply beautiful. It's a continuation of the wall covering that we saw in the main home. Similar concrete casting. Look at the level of detail. Same thing, large base molding. And when you're comparing homes, those little details add up. Details in this one are just off the charts, so there's a lot of comparing to do. And look at that incredible ballroom. Look at those 3 chandeliers, the wall finish, the space, the marble floors. So I challenge anybody to say they have a home or know of a home that has its own ballroom. This is simply incredible. You walk in this foyer, perfect entry. If you're having a ball or having an event, people walk in, kind of get adjusted, get their bearings on the room, and then you have the main room. And is that not just gorgeous? Look at those chandeliers. So you can fully appreciate the space. Let me give you a full panoramic coming in the door we just did from the motor courtyard area, which would be where your guests were arriving from. They pull through the gate, across the granite, which kind of simulates like a cobblestone, and they would enter into this ballroom. And you just imagine, an evening glow arriving to an event here. Isn't that incredible? Much like we talked about inside, about having mirrors on panels. Look at the giant mirrors on these walls. And it just makes the space look larger, gives it that kind of glamour, bling kind of look. It's just extravagant and grand all at the same time. Each end, toward the ceiling there's a sitting space just behind those concrete castings, and we're going to go visit each of those and show you what it looks like from the upper level. So as we make our way upwards, look at this. Carpeted staircases, you have your velvet rope. It's very theatrical and grand. You might have private meetings up there, and you just rope it off, and you have your own secluded area with a wall covering. That is just spectacular. You can see a lot of the details have that theatrical look. And even when we were in the main home, and I mentioned that one room with the carpet had somewhat of a theatrical look. And when you think about it, everything with theater is grand. It's to entertain. It's to make people feel good and cheerful. And this space is all about that. More concrete castings. Matches the home perfectly. And you have your main ballroom from the second level. All the windows keep it bright if you're having a daylight event. And chandeliers and sconces, those are just going to provide the perfect glow for an evening event. So you can imagine just having a separate sitting space up here, table and a few chairs, gathering with a few friends, watching the ball. Gorgeous. As we make our way back to the main ballroom, we're going to look on the left side here. As soon as you have a gathering with a lot of people, you're going to need some facilities. And this was so well planned. And even the detail, even plates like you would find, in a historic building. And again, this isn't a historic house, but Westbury, the home was simulating, was built in like 1906. So some of the details are period for what it was trying to simulate. So what you have here, you have a series of individual powder rooms, like a series of half baths. Each individual with its own water closet. You have your sink. I love that hardware. Look at that. That is spot on. Even the detail between the sink and the wall. The receptacle plates. Even the way they've displayed the paper towels there, with that single glass shelf. Very, very historic looking. I love that. One thing you're going to notice, that one has a swinging door. We're also going to see some with a pocket door. Look at the hinge hardware. Tell me that is not attention to detail. So we have a second one here. And again, look how they're all individualized. Same sink, but here the toilet is a corner model. And so it was very specifically designed, and the attention to detail is just incredible. More mirror panels, and even the corner hardware on the mirror panel. Look at that. You just have to have a huge appreciation when someone takes such a careful approach to a design. And here we pick up the pocket doors. And pocket doors are nice, that they save space. You don't have the door swing. You don't have to allot for that square footage because the door disappears into the wall. And look at the detail in that hardware. That's incredible. So I mentioned they're each different. This particular one does have a shower in it. Have your linear drain, bench, sprayer, rain head. So well thought out. Even the rope detail between the tile and the sheetrock. So well laid out. Everything from the hardware to the hinges and the fact that they're all different. Pocket doors, swinging doors. And I love the detail on these plates. That is so awesome. So in this same space, straight across the room, there is a commercial kitchen. Because after all, if you're having an event, it might not only be a ball, it might be a dinner and everything. So you have to be fully equipped to take care of your guests. So we're going to take a look at the commercial kitchen, and then above that is another sitting space, just like there was on this end. As we make our way to the sitting space, I love this detail, the red carpet. It's just another sign of glamour, and I just love it. It fits the theme. Here you go, another velvet rope, same carpet, and just look how theatrical that is. With the gold wall finish, you've got the brass hand railings, and the mirror at the top. That is simply extravagant. So this is very symmetrical, just like the other side. Another sitting room. Have your concrete castings. Overlooks the ballroom. Just can't get enough of those chandeliers. Beautiful mirrors, your windows up top. And that wall covering is absolutely perfect for this space. And even the concrete columns, when you come in and you see those columns like that, it just immediately shows you the grandness of the space. Big mirror panel door. Same thing on the other side. And what that is they just have some mechanicals. You have the HVAC handler behind that. Absolutely stunning. So we visited the upstairs sitting space. We're going to go visit the commercial kitchen, which is right behind this mirror and right behind these doors. And again, I absolutely love the detail. The attention to that, look at that, staff only, the push plate on the door, that is just incredible. So just behind the door, staff only, you come into a fully operational commercial kitchen. Look at that, twin refrigerators. Have some operational systems equipment there. Perfect counter height. If people are prepping meals and they're going out, easy pickup there. And all the stainless. I know all the chefs in the viewing audience are wishing they had this set up. So you can imagine if you have a ballroom full of guests and you're also serving them dinner, you need this type of equipment to be able to facilitate that. And the room is very symmetrical in that you have the door we entered there on the left, and then you also have a set of double doors here on the right. Kind of swinging doors. They're easy to enter and exit because if you figure if they're serving meals, they're hustling, so they don't have time to slow down. So they need easy access in and out of the kitchen. And again, look at the detail on those plates. I love that.
That is simply one gorgeous ballroom, isn't it? And that was the interior, but look at the exterior. Everything continues. You still have more casted concrete. Look at the detail even in the railings. And you can imagine in the evenings pulling up to an event here. Have the glow coming through the windows. Pulling up to the motor courtyard, have some valet parking. The whole thing is just so glamorous. English garden over here, mature trees, because the property was established some time ago, even before the construction of the home. So they're fortunate enough to have mature trees, and all the landscaping didn't have to start from scratch. Look at that. That's where the driveway comes up from the front gate. We're actually walking down the driveway from the side gate, and you come in, you have the stone wall. Isn't that just beautiful? Even the way they laid out the driveway. We talked about the combination of aggregate and granite earlier, but it makes for such a great presentation. Well, I think we have just about covered everything in this incredible estate. Again, I am out here at 9600 Concord Road in Brentwood, Tennessee. I am Sean Larson, real estate broker here in Middle Tennessee and the 38 Florida market, and I hope you enjoyed this tour. I absolutely adore this home. I remember when it was built. I followed along when it was built. I just have a super appreciation for all the effort that went into building such a masterpiece. And again, it's based on the Westbury home and Westbury Gardens in New York. So if you want to look that up, check it out. You will be stunned at how closely it resembles it. And again, it is not a home that was chasing the latest trends. It didn't want to be the one on the block in the neighborhood that was the most trendy and following, builder trends. This was an intentional vision to build an estate that had just very extensive finishes, a lot of planning, a lot of labor, huge investment. It's just not your typical home. So I hope you have an appreciation for everything that went into the home, the glamour of it. It is just a masterpiece. My name again is Sean Larson, real estate broker here in Middle Tennessee and the 38 Florida market. And if I can assist you with anything in real estate, whether it be buying, selling, investing, or building, please reach out. I'd be happy to answer all your questions. I hope you have a fantastic day.